The following program is intended for mature audiences.
That movie. Speaking about knowing nothing about movies, here's the complete opposite. Zero Dark 30, at number 25, which to me is about quite a lot of spots too high. I would not even put it on the list.
I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, I remember this moment. I as soon as I was finished watching it, I got my phone out and texted my one friend. I said, no matter what anybody says about Zero Dark 30, don't listen to them. It is a great film.
I think it's great
a
at
hard film too. I mean, fucking hard.
Yeah, it's great at what it does, but there's a lot of things that it doesn't do that I think it could have made for a better movie.
Yeah.
One of them is, I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but Jessica Chastain's character isn't really a character. She is completely consumed by this hunt for Osama bin Laden, and she fails to exist outside of that, within the movie. I don't know if it was Catherine Bigelow's decision to do it that way to illustrate that, yeah, her life is consumed by this. This hunt is her life. That's a great idea, but in the movie, to demonstrate that, you can't, in a visual medium, show somebody not doing something. You have to show other characters doing that thing, and then, by contrast, you see the other character not. But there's nobody else in the movie that really, lives their life or has things to do outside of this plot.
Yeah. Well, I felt in a lot of ways...
It felt to me like it was just flat. She did unbelievable job in the movie.
Yeah.
No question about that.
I got the sense through the whole movie that everybody is involved. They're all doing the same thing. But with the way Jessica, her focus and her attention in that movie, nobody else in that movie is willing to go that far, and it's almost like, why aren't these people doing what she's doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I got that obsession through her character.
Yeah.
Jason Clarke, who's in that, I wish he
was amazing.
Was in it longer.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. I really noticed him. That's weird. And you really saw the toll that this world took on him, and you see how he has to get out of it. And at first, I thought that was a criticism. It's why did they have this great, interesting character, and then he's just kind of gone?
Yeah.
And that was upsetting. But now that I think about it, it's because you see now the toll that it took on him. And yours, Jessica Chastain, she's still going to go on. She's still involved. She's totally in it. So it's actually kind of cool that they took out his character, because he was a motherfucker in that movie.
Yeah.
And there is that it's a controversial notion. It's was this okay? Let's say for sake of argument that this was real. This is exactly what happened. This is what's going on. Is that okay? Is that sort of aggressive torture of these people justifiable to find somebody who ultimately was just bankrolling these horrible events that happened?
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly opens up the conversation. And I think there's also a bit of the Apollo 13 effect going on in there. Apollo 13 is one of those movies I never know if they're going to make it back to Earth. And I should. And when I watched Zero Dark 30, man, are they going to get them?
Yeah. I
hope.
I think my biggest problem with the movie, this is very unfair of me to say, but the movie requires you to really understand things that aren't in the movie and pieces of real life that 50 years.
You'd be a little more informed to watch this movie. There's no exposition in this movie. That was one of the things that I loved about it.
Yeah. 50 years from now, there's going to be, 17-year-olds or 20-year-olds.
They're going to have a hard time.
They don't have the same experience that we have. We lived through this point in reality, so we know why this guy is worth going after. We know what kind of things he's capable of, what he could do, but none of that's in the movie.
No. It's not. It is an expositionless movie.
Yeah. If this was fiction, Osama bin Laden would be the least developed villain in movie history.
Yeah.
Because he does nothing
Nothing. It's
in
just,
this movie.
Which would be. I would have loved to if this was a fictional start to develop a villain like that. And another thing that I like about it too is that there's that sequence when they finally do find his compound.
Oh, that whole
And
sequence was one of the best, like, pieces of filmmaking
Yeah.
I've seen in a long time.
But what's great about it is it's like any other movie. Like when you reach the villain's destination. Like let's say when we get to Mordor and we see Barad-dûr and Mount Doom, it's this grand, epic. No,
Yeah.
it's just like the car's driving down the street. The guy looks, reaction shot. There's the compound.
Yep.
It's just kind of done all quietly and in the dark, literally. I guess they were.
I would have preferred to actually have some of the, like, not explanation, but, like, some of the information in the movie, so it works as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as it is now, it kind of only semi-does. It kind of expects you to know things that, you know, a lot of people in the future are not going to understand in the same context that we do, and they're probably going to ask questions like, why was this important? And then they're going to have to go and do research, and
Yeah.
I don't think you should have to do extracurricular activities to enjoy a movie to the fullest extent. I think if you want to make a documentary, just make a documentary and tell people all this stuff, but if you're making a story, it has to work as a story.
Yeah. I think it works well. I like it better than The Hurt Locker.
I probably agree. It's I didn't expect to see this movie on here because I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
It really lost a lot of traction in the past couple of years. Nobody talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
Not favorably, in my experience.
Really.
Doesn't mean people still don't love it.
Yeah.
Maybe they do.
I'm all about it.
Cool. Next movie's number 24, 2 Days, 1 Night. I don't know if you saw that since last week.
I have seen 2 Days and 1 Night.
How is it?
I wish I watched it in the summer. It's like it's a great concept. Like we agreed, it's this lady's trying to convince her coworkers to take a pay cut so she can still work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Which just by that concept, yeah, some are gonna agree, some aren't. So the story is the justification of all these characters, why they make the choice they make, and sort of how Marion Cotillard, her character, has to react to that.
I think she's one of the most talented actors in film today.
Yeah.
So many great movies that she's been in.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I don't know if it's because of the way when it takes place, but I wish I watched it in the summer. I watched it in the dead of winter.
Would you agree that it deserves to be like 24 on the list, on your personal list?
I don't even know if I'd put it in a top list for the decade.
What about movie number 23, Melancholia?
Melancholia, which I just bought on Blu-ray. Loved it, and I love that it's broken up into two totally different styles.
That was
First half is Dogma '95. The second half is more conventional filmmaking. But I loved it. I love the concept. I think Kirsten Dunst is magnificent in that movie. Man, does she capture depression?
Oh yeah, she surprised the hell out of me in that movie. That was my.
That's another one that movie's a lot funnier than I think people realize. all of Lars von Trier's movies, I think his movies are so tongue in cheek. I had a This is, I think, if I can sum up Lars von Trier as one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. I had a screenwriting professor who said that Lars von Trier is, the worst individual who ever lived. He's so degrading to women. He knows nothing about women. He's disgusting. Lars von Trier is the only filmmaker. Don't look at anything he's ever made. He's awful. Well, that's a fair assessment. Another friend I have, who's a woman, says that Lars von Trier gets women.
Huh.
So there's two different female perspectives on Lars von Trier.
I guess it depends on your own personal experience, life experiences. This was my first Lars von Trier movie that I saw.
Really?
Yeah, this was my introduction to his movies. I think
it's a good one because it's a much more accessible film. I think.
that's what I was gonna say. I think that was a good thing because I understood the movie and it didn't require a lot of I don't even know how to describe it. It was easy to watch, and yeah, it was. It's still very like artistic in many ways. It does a lot of things you wouldn't expect to happen, but yeah, it's extremely well made, well shot.
There's that moment when what's the
Kirsten Dunst?
No, the other
Charlotte Gainsbourg?
Yeah, Charlotte Gainsbourg, who's in all of his other films. When I think they realize that Melancholia is gonna hit Earth, and they're fucked, and just Charlotte Gainsbourg like try to suggest something to Kirsten Dunst to like, this is what we'll do and it'll be good and we'll be happy and we'll get through this. And she's like, what do you think of that? And Kirsten Dunst just goes, I think it's shit. Like, that is just, yeah, if you want to capture that feeling, the sadness and depression of feeling, like, it's just like, yeah, it's shit.
Yeah, I would like to go back to see this movie again.
I love that.
After I understand what he was going for now.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting is that it starts with a marriage, or it starts with a wedding, which is, as we know with Shakespeare, like the wedding is supposed to represent happiness, and we're supposed to end with a wedding, and everybody's gonna be having a good time. But it's like Ron Sure starts with a wedding, like no, like man, boy, if there's a concept that I think can make you miserable, a fucking wedding, marriage. Kiefer Sutherland, who's really good in that too. He's not normally remembered for. I don't think we see enough of him.
Now this article doesn't even mention him.
Yeah, he's in that. He's really good in it. It's a very well shot film.
All right, moving on. Number 22 is a movie called The Hunt.
I haven't seen that. I think it's on Netflix though. So.
It is, and here's the thing. I was gonna watch it today.
It's funny how just like say on Netflix is like a thing when we read it's streaming on Netflix. You can get anything on Netflix.
Just about, yeah.
But there's a difference between streaming on Netflix and get it on Netflix.
Getting the DVD in the mail.
Yeah.
I was gonna watch it.
Still do that?
I don't.
I don't either. I think I'm signed up for it too.
No, the thing is, like,
some money.
There's so many things to watch streaming on Netflix that I just don't have the time to like get other movies in the mail. I found out.
Go to the mailbox and. Okay.
Yeah, I found out that the Netflix, like your instant queue, like the list, whatever they call it now, my list, there's a limit to how many titles you could have in that.
Really?
Yeah, 500. I found that out by adding 500 movies to my list and trying to add 501, and it's saying, no, you gotta watch something first.
Yeah, this isn't what you're paying for.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna watch The Hunt this afternoon. I just didn't get to it, so I didn't see it yet either. It's apparently about a school teacher who's falsely accused of inappropriate behavior towards a student.
Interesting.
From everything that I've heard of it, apparently it's very good, very much worth seeing.
Right. I haven't looked at it. I want to. I know it's on Netflix, and when I get the chance, I will look at it.
Alright, not much more we can say about that one. What about number 21, Foxcatcher?
Ooh.
Did you see that one yet?
Which just came out at the time of this recording. Came out on Blu-ray. Yeah, I love Foxcatcher. When we talked about it a little last week, again, I think Channing Tatum, he's kind of the standout performance in that movie. I wish he had gotten some sort of recognition.
You know, between him, Mark Ruffalo, and Steve Carell, it's hard to pick like a favorite. Like who was really the overachiever in terms of acting in this movie? Everybody did clearly like some of their best work.
They all brought their fair share. It's all those are all interesting characters that they're playing too. John DuPont, he's creepy too. Like whatever's going on between him and his mother.
Oh yeah.
In that movie, I don't know if we talked about that last week, but I just hope Bennett Miller keeps making movies like Foxcatcher.
Yeah, that's
I think it
another.
might be my favorite movie he's made.
Really,
Yeah.
I'd have to go with Moneyball still.
think?
Yeah, I mean Foxcatcher is a slow burn, like really slow burn. Not a whole lot of things happen in that movie. Requires a lot of patience, but it's rewarding. But also at the same time, not exactly the kind of movie that, like, for me personally, like I'm not going to sit down and eagerly anticipate seeing it again, even though I know how well made it is, how good it is.
Yeah. It's again, I welcome the conversation of somebody tell me why he does why Steve Carell does what he does at the end of that movie.
Yeah, that I mean, a lot to think about afterwards, and it's kind of fun to do that. And I haven't really looked into the true story of what really went down, but somebody should probably make a documentary about that because I really want to know.
Yeah, there's some very interesting. I think a documentary that the guy John DuPont actually made. Steve Carell nailed it. Nailed that guy. And I think I think a lot of it. I think the guy may have been a repressed homosexual, and he was dealing with that personally.
Possibly.
And I think that is hinted at between his relationship with these men in Foxcatcher. He just living such a shelter, almost. You hate to say shelter because it's like the most magnificent family in American
billionaire.
history. Yeah, but I mean, how much do you really know that person?
Yeah,
the guy buys a tank, and he doesn't like one thing about it, so he sends it away so he can get a better one. How do you really? How do you know that kind of a person?
Yeah. He really has a lot of secrets, and the movie leaves you asking a lot of questions, but in a good way. There's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it.
Yeah.
And this is an example, I think, of like a movie where you kind of really don't know everything, but it's actually beneficial.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
We're moving into
Everybody see Foxcatcher. Great opening shot.
Okay, excellent cinematography too. We're in the top 20 here now.
Jeez, clipping.
Yeah, number 20 is The Master.
Ah.
I didn't enjoy this as much as you did.
Oh, well. It should be no mistake how much I love Paul Thomas Anderson and everything he's ever done. The Master, that's the greatest film ever made.
The Master is unbelievably well shot.
Yeah, it's almost unfair.
Yeah,
how well shot
the lighting in that movie is probably some of the best I've ever seen. If you see this movie, see it on Blu-ray, on the best TV you could find, and you will, wow, that's like just purely from like a visual standpoint, it's a marvel.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely marvelous.
This movie would be number one for me.
Really?
If we did the best of it. I mean, it's the greatest film ever made. So yeah, it's number one, of course.
The Master. For me, my big thing with The Master was the movie felt... not the movie, but the plot, like the story, felt a lot like...
Which I think there's a distinction between those two things.
There is. I don't know how other people define it, but for me, when I say plot, I mean the external things happen.
What's happening? What is this about?
Like in Die Hard, like the part of the plot is terrorists come and take over this building, and John McClane is trying to go and get them and stop them, and then they have to do this, and then they have to do that, and all these things are happening, but the story is the character's story, like where John McClane starts and where he ends. And I think the story for The Master felt to me a lot like running in place. Like there's things going on, but when it stops, it's right where it was when it started. The character Joaquin Phoenix plays didn't really learn a whole lot. He didn't gain a deeper understanding of what he already knew. He really felt static to me in a lot of ways. And that's the one thing that I didn't like about the movie.
I would argue that it's more of, that is why, what's so magnificent about that story is he's kind of reassured in the end. Like, he does start in one place, and he kind of winds up in the same place. You know, like, this story is, he's a veteran, he's, you know, he's shell-shocked, he's an alcoholic, he's lost, he needs something, he needs like a family, he needs guidance, he needs somebody to love him, and he needs to know it's okay. Like, he's just a fucked up dude, and, you know, for who knows why, he falls in with this cause, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it gives him something, he's attracted to it, it gives him that sense of purpose and belonging, it gives him that understanding, of the universe, it makes him calm, it makes him happy.
Yeah.
It almost really does cure him, and there's just that, I love that moment when Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's promising them all, I found out the secret to the universe, I know what the reason for everything is, and that, okay, Joaquin Phoenix's character, this is what he's been waiting for, and he says, the secret, and the ultimate answer, is all of you. And they cut to that shot of Joaquin Phoenix, and if there ever was a shot of somebody who was so upset and so pissed and so
disappointed
and underwhelmed, and he kind of does like that, like, just kind of, what?
He realized this guy's full of shit.
That's when he realizes, oh my god, yeah, I was totally duped by this guy. And what I think was so even more upsetting about it is when Philip Seymour Hoffman says, you know, the secret and the cause, everything is all of you. Joaquin Phoenix, it's also going in his head like, well, I know what I am. I'm a piece of shit. And is that like, we're all this shit? And it kind of is that reaffirming.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. What if this is what life really is? It's just I'm broken, and we're just these series of. It's a ghost story in a lot of ways. I'm glad he's watching Casper in it because he's just a ghost floating around in this broken world.
Yeah.
I knew they said they wanted to, at the end of the movie when they're in Europe, they wanted to kind of maybe get some shots of, you know, Europe post-war, to kind of see, like, you know, the ruined state, and having Joaquin Phoenix's character walk through that. It's like, no, you don't need to, because Joaquin Phoenix did it so brilliantly in just his performance. You don't need to see the war, because you just have to look at his character.
Yeah, he expresses it so well.
Yeah, and that's really what it is, and that's why he runs away from Ultimate, because this is offering me nothing that I didn't already get, and it's that reassuring, yeah, like, it's like, fuck, I was duped by this guy, he gave me nothing, and then he goes back, he's drawn back to it for some reason, he's pulled in, like he was with the young girl that he was involved with his whole life, and there is that reaffirming, wait a minute, maybe it is all just a trick, maybe it's all bullshit, but there was still something there, there was a connection, I did feel happy, I felt like I belonged somewhere, I felt like I was loved and cared for, I wasn't this miserable, broken thing, I was being fixed, I was being taken care of, and I'm drawn to that, and it sticks with you in your memory, and you try to, like, attach to those good moments. But ultimately, you know, just like he tries to go back to the girl, but she's moved on. It's never gonna work. He tries to go back to the cause and be with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's not gonna work. So that way, I think why he gains peace in the end is he realizes that I'll be okay because I've had these experiences that I can latch on to. I have had these good moments.
He knows that good things are out there.
Yeah.
There is a place.
But it is ultimately just shit.
Yeah. Even if he's not in that place now, he's affirmed that, like, he kind of knows that it's there, waiting for him. That's a good explanation of the movie. It makes me want to see it again.
Oh, definitely. You gotta, and there's this, you know, it was shot in '65, but they use it for close-ups the whole movie, and it's that Joaquin Phoenix is not a very inviting character in that movie. You're right in his face.
Yeah.
And I had a professor who said, like, you know, it's like he's disgusting to look at in that movie, and it's very unpleasant. It's not until the end when he's in bed with that woman that you kind of see him at peace and almost inviting in a lot of ways, and he's kind of happy. But as you said, it's running in place. He winds up right where he started. Yeah, and the last shot of the movie, it's back at when he's it starts where he's on the beach after the war,
Mm-hmm.
and the last shot of the movie is him back on the beach after the war. But what's different now, the image that P.T. Anderson decided to end on, it's not one of those images where he's like, making this booze or he's fighting with the other guys. It's the image of him where he's at peace, asleep, next to this invisible sandcastle fantasy woman.
Yep.
That's the image. He's still broken, but the war's over and he's at peace.
A lot of his internal conflict is gone now.
Yeah, it's
he's settled
he's
that.
asleep. Yeah, he's kind of calm now, and that's what. It's interesting that like you said, he is in the same place, but what's different about him in that place now? What are we seeing? It's that moment when he is at peace on the beach, and it's the same with when they have that first scene where they're talking together, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix, where they're processing. He's going back in his memories and he's recalling the girl, and he's talking about when she would sing to him. And it's Joaquin Phoenix is very calm in that scene. He's like, he even says her voice when she sings calms me down, and like that's what he's looking for through that whole movie. And he loses. Unfortunately, he loses touch of all that. And it's a well-made film, and fuck, I can go on forever about that movie. It's so rich, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, his finest hour. Everybody's great in that movie, and like you said, it's so well made with the shots, the lighting, cinematography, the score. Johnny Greenwood, great at his frightening, creepy score. Fuck yeah, I can go on for the master forever.
All right, well, let's move on to number 19, Frances Ha.
Ah, the great Noah Baumbach film.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
Did you? You watched it? What'd you think?
It's not what I expected at all.
Really?
I don't know what I expected, but I actually enjoyed it quite a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a very pleasant film, and he has not made pleasant films. Are you
I'm
familiar with his other movies?
No, I have The Squid and the Whale on DVD, but I didn't watch it yet. I bought it when Blockbuster closed for
one of my
30
favorites.
cents.
I think that's in my top 10 movies ever made, Squid and the Whale. I love that movie.
Yeah, no, this was
his characters are not
movie.
pleasant.
In this movie, they are.
Yeah,
in a strange way.
This is another. He's very close to Wes Anderson. They work together.
Mm-hmm.
They've written movies together. They've produced movies together. They have a great commentary on the life aquatic of Steve Zissou. It's very funny. They're like eating at a restaurant, watching the life aquatic of Steve Zissou. But this was like another step in his career. He made these certain kind of movies, and now he's making different kind of movies.
And that's good,
Frances Ha
evolving as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
This movie, there's another film on this list that I don't know if we got to yet or if I'm just forgetting what it was, but let's just say Kill List, for example. I can find things to dislike in that movie all day long. The characters didn't care about in this movie. I wanted to hang out with these characters even before the opening credits came on. They were just fascinating, just fun people, pleasant to be around. It was a very I don't know how to describe it. I like this story of this woman who is kind of at a lost point in her life, and she sees everybody around her moving on and doing other things, and she's still kind of trying to figure everything out, and that's very easy to relate to for anybody. I don't know who hasn't been in that situation.
I think, the people who are going to love this movie and who do love this movie are the people who know that experience. They're very unsure of anything, they're not settled down. And the people who would look at this movie and kind of just turn their nose up at it are the ones who are settled down. She's kind of rebelling against this movie. This movie is so in debt to all the best things about Woody Allen, too. It's hard to not think of Woody Allen's films.
Yeah.
When you look at Frances Ha. And Frances Ha is just so... It has this charming humor to it that is, it's through all of Noah Baumbach's films. He's a very, very funny writer. There's a great scene where she's on the train with her friend and she's trying to make the blood run through.
Oh, she holds her hand up.
Yeah, she holds her hand up so she get the ring off her finger, and she just goes, "I look like I'm asking a question."
Yeah. A lot of the humor, it's not exactly the kind of thing that like made me laugh. It just made me happy.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
it's charming.
charming's a good
It
word.
has that
yeah.
dry sort of Wes Anderson humor too. Like you'll find all that in his movies.
Yeah, and a lot of the dialogue too. It felt almost made up on the spot. Like I don't know if there was a script for this movie or not, but if there was, I can't imagine reading it and truly experiencing like what I experienced with the movie. It's totally. It's not a not impressive for its writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like what was done in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's not a bad thing. It's
Right.
just that's the kind of movie that it is. I didn't. That's not what I expected at all. But I really enjoyed it.
It's great use of music. Supporting cast is really good in it too. You have Adam Driver in there who allegedly will be the villain in the new Star Wars.
Oh yeah, he is cast in that.
I like him. He's on the show Girls. He's really funny. But it's that humor throughout the whole movie. Like when that scene she goes to Paris, she's trying to call the friend.
Without her knowing, or the other friend that doesn't know that she's there.
Yeah, and like get together and hang out, and she doesn't get a hold of her, and it's like, oh, the trip was a bust, and then she gets back home and she gets the voicemail from the friend, like, oh, this is such great timing, let's hang out. And
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not.
Very easy movie to relate to.
And you know, it's just like there's the moment when she runs down the street to the David Bowie song "Modern Love." It's like, yeah, she gets excited at those moments, just running down the street with all this energy, and it's like,
Yeah, there are multiple ways to approach, like, if you're that character in that life. Like, you could just be downbeat and upset that nothing's going your way. Or you could just live life the way that she was. Like, hey, no matter what, you know, I'm still trying to do something with it. Still trying to be happy and be positive. And that, I don't know, that's probably a good message.
And I think it's about companionship too, and it's not necessarily female. It doesn't have to just be female companionship. I think there's a lot. I think guys can relate to this in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Just with their friends. I mean, it just happens to be from a female perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting too that towards the end of the movie, she kind of ends up doing a lot of things that she said she wouldn't do, but she actually enjoys it. And I don't know if it was just like her perspective changed or what happened, but it's worth really thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, how did she figure this out?
Yeah. Definitely see Frances Ha.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in my personal top 20, but yeah, definitely see it. Here's a movie I have not seen, Enter the Void.
Oh, Gaspar Noé, I think I would say his name. Made one of my all-time favorites, Irreversible, which is one of the most fucking...
Unpleasant movie.
Yeah, that's a hard movie.
Yeah.
That's not a pleasant movie. It's not a date movie.
Nope. Unless you're H.H. Holmes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's but Enter the Void. I think Enter the Void might be a little too much longer than it needs to be.
That's like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but apparently it's really whacked out, very surreal.
It's
ways.
essentially this kid takes DMT. You see it through his perspective, and then he dies, and then you see death through his perspective. And it might be, maybe it's a little too much. It just gets wild at the end. It's very excessive.
Irreversible is excessive too in different ways.
Excessive in a good way. Like I think Irresistible doesn't necessarily cross the line, and whereas I think Enter the Void is like we're just gonna totally go all balls out. And maybe that was a hindrance to it. But the opening sequence where this kid is having a psychedelic experience on DMT, it's much like the Stargate sequence in 2001, and I think even Gaspar Noé said he wasn't doing anything original with that scene, but that's the one everybody talks about. But yeah, it's the sound design is really cool, and you see his eyes blink, and it's really neat to kind of look at.
Would you recommend it? Or
oh God, yeah, I absolutely would. Just on the basis of like, hey, who's making a movie like this? Really, not too many people.
Yeah, that ties into what I said at the start. A lot of the movies on this list are really art house type of movies that,
Art house fare.
yeah, that you can't find other movies like them.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, it's everything on this list is pretty unique. Number 17 is a movie called Taboo.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know the first thing about it.
I believe you can watch it on Netflix streaming though.
Oh, let's find out right now. There is a movie called... yeah, it is on here. It's a nod to F.W. Murnau's final film, so right now I want to see it.
Yeah, that's... I'm in.
Murnau is
Hell yeah.
one of my favorite filmmakers of all time.
Absolutely.
He did Nosferatu.
And you just think of everything we wouldn't have if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, I mean, he directed a movie in the 20s, silent film called, what the fuck's the name of it? The Last Laugh. And it's, if I was running like a film class, like if I was the professor, if I was in charge, an exercise,
You have the keys.
yeah, it's all in my hands, and I had the last laugh. A great exercise would be to explain the plot of this movie to other people and have each one of them try to make a movie as good as The Last Laugh. Because I don't think it could be done.
Yeah.
The plot of the movie is this guy is a doorman at a hotel, and it's like the best thing in his life, and he cherishes this job, and he loses his job, and he eventually tries to get back in there. He ends up working like in the basement, like as a bathroom attendant, and his life is just terrible. And I don't want to like go into like the whole movie, like that's a good chunk of it though. But for anybody to make a movie like with that idea
Yeah.
so well and so fascinating and so affecting, like it's really extremely well done. I don't even think there are any title cards like in this movie.
Really?
There's no spoken dialogue. No, it's all visual, all black and white. Amazing use of location, like the place, like the setting is so well designed, and so it's almost like a character in itself. And you really feel for this guy when everything starts to go like really bad for him. But yeah, I figure if we can't talk about Taboo, we can at least talk about that.
plug both. I'm always in. I'm double features. That's a big suggestion of mine.
So yeah, I can't say much more about Taboo or the next movie on our list. It's number 16. Once Upon a Time in Anatolia.
Haven't seen that.
Anatolia.
Yeah,
that. It's not Once Upon a Time in the West, one of my all-time favorites.
Not Once Upon a Time in America.
Also one of my all-time favorites, and I would say probably the best gangster movie whose title does not begin with The Godfather.
Yeah. Wow, that's Goodfellas even?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Better than Goodfellas. Goodfellas is a movie where hated all the characters, hated spending time with them, wanted them to all just go away, didn't matter how.
Really?
If they just disappeared from the movie or just died horrible, violent deaths in the first minute, it would have been a much better movie. Extremely well made, can't take that away from Scorsese. Very important movie. Hated the characters.
Really?
Hated them.
Really?
I could not connect with
I don't
anybody.
know too many. I don't know anybody that would say that about Goodfellas. People love Goodfellas.
Yeah, it's a good movie, but the characters are dicks.
Yeah.
I don't want to hang out with dicks for 3 hours.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's actually, since we can't talk about this movie, we can at least talk about something else. There's an interesting ESPN 30 for 30 documentary.
Okay.
Called Playing for the Mob. And it's about Henry Hill's involvement in fixing Boston College basketball games. And that little documentary it tells the story of Goodfellas better than Goodfellas.
You know, I always wanted to make the airport heist they do
Yeah.
into a movie. I think that would have been. I would have liked to have seen that. Like they talk about it in the movie, but you never see that.
Yeah.
You only see the after. Like that's an example of you see the aftermath of a crime and how it takes the good effect. That's an interesting way it takes the effect on the people of those involved. Whereas Night moves and do it successfully, but
To me, Goodfellas, I use as an example of the kind of movie that I'm not really. It's not like my style of movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you want an example of my style of movie, it would be Boogie Nights,
Mm-hmm.
which is beat for beat the same story as Goodfellas, except you just
You know-
switch out the mob for 70s pornography industry,
Yeah.
and it's the same story.
Yeah. You know, I think that should be our challenge for this week is try to find us the story of Goodfellas done well in other places.
What do you mean?
Like the 30 for 30 doc tells you the story of Goodfellas. Boogie Nights also tells you the story of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
So like that's our challenge this week to everybody. Find the story of Goodfellas elsewhere. And
Yeah, because like the characters I couldn't connect with in Goodfellas, but in Boogie Nights, I want to hang out with every one of them.
Mhm.
They're so pleasant to be around.
yeah.
Even when like they're
They're not.
doing unpleasant things.
You still want to kind of
Yeah.
help them.
Yeah, like William H. Macy, like I felt so bad for him in that movie.
I know. He's-
Ray Liotta, I didn't care. Like if he got arrested, immediately, it wouldn't affect me.
One of my favorite things to do with Boogie Nights is to watch the background of Boogie Nights. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's so rich. I mean, there is a scene, or there's a shot in Boogie Nights when they're leaving the nightclub. It's before Burt Reynolds picks up Mark Wahlberg on the street and invites him over to his house. But you see, they're all leaving the nightclub. It's that big bird's eye shot with the big.
Oh
jump
yeah,
shot.
that crane shot.
And you see, Burt and Roller Girl and Julianne Moore, they're getting in their car, and Mark Wahlberg's walking down the street, and I think Louis Guzman is locking the door. If you watch in the background, William H. Macy is walking to his car, and even though he's parked in the same spot as everybody else, he's the only one that got a ticket. He takes the ticket off his window and looks at it like, what the fuck? And he crumbles it up and throws it on the ground. It's
Wow.
like, his character is just the most unfortunate loser in all of cinema.
Yeah. I mean, his wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, that scene I know at the party when he's looking for her, like, it's like, oh man, if there. Watch that scene again. He has a parking ticket on his car.
Yeah, I got it. I think
That movie is so great to watch. Like in the background, Don Cheadle is like, that is such a fucking.
Philip Seymour Hoffman too.
Oh my god,
Amazing performance in that.
I don't know if one of my favorite moments in that movie is when he first shows up at the pool party and he goes over to introduce himself to Mark Wahlberg, and he's wearing that shirt that's too small, and he's talking to them. He's like, yeah, I work on the films too, and he's smiling. He's trying to be cool. He pulls his shirt down to cover his stomach, but it is so small. As soon as he straightens himself back up, the shirt goes right back to where it was.
That's great.
It's such a. The details in Boogie Nights are just,
To me, that's his best movie. Paul Thomas Anderson's.
all of his movies are just magnificent. Fuck, I can go on forever about Boogie. We should just have a show on Boogie Nights
Right?
where we watch Boogie Nights and talk about it. I love everything about that movie. And if you know a lot about filmmaking, Boogie Nights is that much better.
Yeah.
Like when he first takes his pants off and they see his cock, and Ricky Jay's reaction as the cameraman, and the way he like what he does with it is the reaction you would imagine a DP in that situation where he thinks he knows the shot and he just goes ugh, and he looks out from behind the camera and has to look at it, and then he goes back and he has to adjust the lens.
It's great. Man, that's such a good movie.
Oh my! And I love the that scene where they're fighting by the pool when Mark Wahlberg gets kicked out when he's all strung out, and he's like, I'm a fucking actor. You're not the king of me. I'm the fucking king of Dirk, and it's my big dick. So everybody get ready now. And Philip Seymour Hoffman in the background, the way he's so scared, and I was just because. I was listening to an interview with Paul Thomas Anderson. There's a scene in that, cause he, having made the movie, knows what was really going on. I guess there's a line where when Burt Reynolds was saying, like, I'm not gonna shoot you. Like, it looks like you haven't been to sleep for a few days, and I'm not gonna shoot you because you don't look good. and I guess when they were shooting that, Ricky Jay, who plays the cameraman in that movie, had a hard time not laughing on set. And it's like every take he would burst out laughing. And the take they used in the movie was the only one where when he says that line, if you watch Ricky Jay, he's trying not to laugh in the scene. And it's really cool to see him try to like hold it back. And he does. In the scene in the movie when Burt Reynolds says that, you just see Ricky Jay kind of look over at him and try not to laugh. It is such a rich movie. You find something new every time.
All right, top 15. 15 is Her.
Her?
Her.
Spike Jonze.
Yeah.
Not my favorite Spike Jonze movie.
It probably
45 minutes longer than it should be, too.
It's still probably my favorite Spike Jonze movie.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. It's really unlike any other movie. It just in the way it depicts like the romance aspect, like in a science fiction way.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it really is.
It's almost like it's 2001 for a love story.
Yeah. And there's so many like really smart choices made in that movie. Like for him to work at a company where he writes greeting cards for other people to be happy. In like his life is anything but like little details like that mean
it's very similar to
so many things.
If you've ever seen 500 Days of Summer with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he does the same thing almost. I remember you said to me once that like what you had a hard time buying into is that he's supposed to be playing a nerd, but the women that he's hooking up with.
Oh yeah.
It's like I don't know if a nerd should maybe be.
Yeah, he's with like Scarlett Johansson, Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, let's see.
Amy Adams and
Rooney Mara.
Yeah, and Rooney Mara. Like
it's like, come on. I mean, like, why is this guy depressed?
This guy's a nerd.
Why is this guy in love with a computer?
Yeah. That was that was a bit strange, but that's the only really like the only thing that took me out of the movie. Otherwise, I was totally on board. I loved the way it was shot. I loved.
Hoyt Van Hoytma shot that.
He did.
I think that's how you say his name. If I'm butchering it, fuck you.
Yeah, he's not listening.
Yeah.
We can say anything we want about him.
I know. Oh god, he's a great DP.
Yeah, he's so good.
But yeah, Her. I think it's a little longer than maybe it should be. I think 90 minutes would have been more appropriate, but I know from what Spike Jonze said, he wanted to put everything that he felt about that subject into this movie when he wrote it, and supposedly it was a lot longer.
Really?
Yeah, supposedly it was like a 4 hour cut originally.
I don't know. I saw the movie one time, and I didn't have a problem with the pacing. Maybe on repeat viewings, it might become an issue, but at this point, it's not.
It's such a delightful film, and it's like, you know what, I'm totally involved in this dude and the love affair he has with his cell phone.
Yeah, and they did it in like a subtle way. Like they didn't really go overboard with the sci-fi. It was there because it had to be there for the story, but otherwise there's only like little touches that make you feel like you're in a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. And I like that you can kind of imagine the other side of the relationship. You know, you really only hear. It's almost like listening to a radio show in a lot of ways, where you're imagining. You're just imagining the one character.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get to make up your own thing.
Yeah, and it's even though it is such like an unrealistic, like unbelievable relationship that somebody could have, it's still like you could still relate to it in a way that it's not perfect. Like there are things that will never work between them.
Yeah.
And that's something that anybody could relate to.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. Great score too by Arcade Fire.
I agree. Number 14 is Leviathan.
I haven't seen it.
Nope, me neither. Number 13's... I guess we should say something about it. I don't know. Yeah, at being number 14 on the list...
It's gotta be good.
Yeah.
Fuck, there's a lot of movies on there that I would definitely have put in my top 5. This Leviathan better be good.
Originally I thought it was a documentary, but apparently there is a documentary that came out a couple years ago called Leviathan that's totally different, not related whatsoever. So yeah, I have no idea what this movie's about.
Right.
Can't say anything about it. I'll definitely be on the lookout for it though.
I just know nothing about it. I wanted to see it.
Yeah, I mean the still image that they have here, it looks like a
Giant whale.
like a whale
skeleton.
carcass here, like the skeleton of a whale. This kid's sitting on a rock, just kind of reflecting on it. It's very, it's a striking image.
Yeah.
It makes me kind of want to see the movie, just, that alone. Number 13 is Stories We Tell.
Very interesting documentary.
You saw it?
Yeah. I'm actually struck by how many people have asked me about if they've seen Stories We Tell. A lot of people seem to have been really affected by this movie. It's a documentary about the actress Sarah Polley trying to dig into the history of her family and locate her real father. And it turns out that the father who raised her wasn't her real father.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds this out by I guess she was fascinated by her parents, and her mother, and finding out who her mother really was and what her life really was, and finding out that she was actually involved with this other man that was her father,
Mm-hmm.
her real biological father. And it's that idea of just growing up in a family and the stories that families tell to each other. I don't know if it's. I would have liked to have maybe seen what the reaction would have been if maybe it wasn't made by a already famous person. Because
Yes.
this isn't that uncommon of a story. People finding out that they're not who they think they were, and they got to go look for their other family. I mean, this isn't really that.
Yeah, I mean,
uncommon.
yeah, it's happened before,
Mhm.
many times. I haven't seen the documentary. It is streaming on Netflix currently, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush out to see it, but it is interesting, and I do like the idea of how it connects to the idea of the families, just like stories within families, and kind of how they kind of take on this certain sort of relevance to an individual.
Number 12 is The Tree of Life.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites.
yeah.
But it's made by Terrence Malick, so it's it's a redundant statement. I love everything he did.
Oh man, The Tree of Life. It's my favorite Terrence Malick film.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably
Would this be number 2 on my list?
this is 12.
No, I'm just saying on my list. Like,
Oh, for Terrence Malick
This might be number 3 on my list. I think I'd go
for the decade.
yeah.
It might be my number 3 just for Terrence Malick movies. I think I like what the hell's the name of it? The war movie.
Thin Red Line?
Yeah, I love it so much. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
The Thin Red Line. Yeah, that's. I've seen that more times though.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's just. I don't know. Just
That movie, that's like that movie should not be shot as well as it is.
oh yeah.
The camera wasn't meant to be used that well.
Yeah, right. Who's John Toll cinematographer?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wow, that movie is so good. And that's probably one of the best looking Blu-rays I've ever seen.
Terrence Malick, I mean, I don't know what it is about his movies, and when shots cut between each other, I don't know if it's just the image, like why you notice cuts in his movie. Like cuts between shots are just so, you don't even notice them in movies because that's what movies are, and I just, why his cuts draw so much attention to themselves in the way that they should. His editing is just, God, I would love to just watch a day of him in an editing room.
I would just love to just hang out with him.
Yeah. It's got to be fascinating to watch him work and how he makes his decision, like what's going on there, like what is the, you hate to like find out what's an artist's motivation.
Yeah.
Boy, I would love to get inside his head.
He thinks very, very philosophically.
Mm-hmm.
So The Tree of Life is the best example of that in
Mhm.
his movies.
What's interesting about the Tree of Life too is that it's more of a companion piece to the Thin Red Line, and the idea of that. And I just realized it recently. All of his movies are love stories.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, all of them except the Tree of Life and the Thin Red Line. I mean, they all have elements of love stories in all of them. But I mean, Badlands, it's like a Bonnie and Clyde story. Days of Heaven, it's a love story.
Days of
It's a
Heaven's
love-
probably my number 1 Terrence Malick.
Yeah.
That movie is on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And just Terrence Malick alone. He's a filmmaker that has a style that if you're not
yeah.
into it, then you're gonna hate
Yeah,
his movies.
yeah. There are the scenes with Jessica Chastain out on the front lawn with the babies when they're fighting each other. Oh my God, boy, is that just such a great scene. I remember walking out of the theater and these older people. The one lady made a comment. Oh, People Magazine said that's one of Brad Pitt's best movies, and indicating she didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is Brad Pitt's best performance. It is the best we've ever seen Brad Pitt.
It's so subtle.
Overbearing father,
Yeah.
what an asshole, and
The subtle moments in that movie are really I mean there are moments where he's very not subtle at all, but even the quieter moments when he's just playing the piano or the keyboard,
yeah,
the organ, man, he's so good. And
Yeah.
that movie is shot that's what Lubezki should have won
yes,
the Oscar for cinematography. Because, oh my God, he's actually using the camera.
Yeah.
He's not just handing work off to a graphic artist to, play with for a month.
He's another one in the New World. I mean, I just feel like it is summertime in Virginia, back in the 1500s or whenever it takes place. I hear the bugs, and it's like I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
I mean, Terrence Malick. I mean, how can you not kind of capitalize on magic hour light? It's not that anything else that isn't shot at that time in his movies isn't beautiful to look at, but boy, it's hard to shoot in that light just to be get it.
Yeah.
But man,
Get it right.
to get it right the way he does, it's just
So consistently.
Yeah, it's I almost feel like it's like because of how long he takes to shoot his movies and how much he does shoot, it's almost like you're guaranteed to get something good because of the light he shoots in.
Yeah.
But more power to him. The Tree of Life. That's another great movie about a family. It's almost like a companion piece of Boyhood.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
It's his weirdest movie, too. In a sense that, you see the birth of the universe at one point.
In the middle of the movie.
Yeah, just because. And, I can't imagine the movie without it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you why it's there, either.
Yeah.
Maybe if I really sat down, watched the movie a couple times, read some things about it, thought about it, but...
If you break it down, The Tree of Life can really be summed up as Sean Penn is an older guy who gets news of his brother dying, and the whole movie takes place in an elevator. Because he goes into the elevator, goes down, and that's when he starts to reminisce on his whole life. And at the end of the movie, gets to the bottom floor on the elevator and walks out. The whole movie takes place on an elevator.
Wow. Yeah, this movie is it doesn't even feel like a movie most of the time. A lot of Terrence Malick's work doesn't, because he doesn't construct scenes traditionally. A scene to him is somebody dancing in the curtains for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's
And then the birth of the universe.
yeah, and dinosaurs.
His most conventional movie is Badlands.
Yeah.
That's probably, if you're, who's this Terrence Malick? Start with Badlands. It's a delightful film. Because then he just goes from there. That's as clear cut as you're going to get.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Yeah.
Even still, you could tell it's one of his movies.
Yeah.
But, the jump to Days of Heaven is
It's
night and day.
Yeah, it is. Here's the guy who decided, nope, I'm doing something totally different.
I'm so thankful that he did. He's probably my favorite living filmmaker. Tree of Life, my top 3 of the decade,
Absolutely.
easily.
Absolutely.
Number 11 on the list, Upstream Color.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the general
the
reaction.
Poor man's Terrence Malick. A lot of people like this. This Shane Carruth, I think his name is. He made a film called Primer, which I know a lot of people love that fucking Primer.
Not
I didn't
me.
care for it.
Oh.
It was. I didn't care for Upstream Color, but it's the poor man's Terrence Malick. He wasn't. Maybe if Terrence Malick hadn't existed, I could find something. But boy, that Upstream Color did not.
Terrence Malick has a style that you can't replicate. You can't copy that.
It's very in debt to Terrence Malick, I think, I would argue.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's great. I'm glad you're in. But it just. Have you seen Upstream Color?
No, I did see Primer though, and that's a movie like that didn't
I
care
don't-
about the characters. Like,
Don't know or care why people like Shane Carruth.
It's lost on me. Maybe they're seeing something I'm not.
Mhm.
Primer disappointed me. As a story, didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, Upstream Color just felt so pretentious too.
And like the counterpoint to Primer for me is like another low budget, very small cast, small amount of locations would be Time Crimes.
Yeah.
Also deals with time travel. Does it in a way that kind of actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the Time Crimes that's my kind of movie. Primer's not.
Yeah.
Because I actually was like on board, like engaged with Time Crimes. Primer, it's just like, man, didn't care.
Upstream Color. You know what? The guy's making films that are, kind of different from what other people are making. He's doing it on his own. He's doing it his way. So more power to him.
Yeah, apparently it took him a long time to get Upstream Color made.
Mm-hmm. Oh, whatever.
So,
But some more power to him. I'm glad.
yeah, I don't know the
Glad
whole
people
story
like it.
behind it,
I
but
don't either.
yeah. We're into the top 10 now.
Oh boy.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Ah. Oh, Coen Brothers movie, and they haven't made. I don't know if they've made one movie that isn't a masterpiece. The Coen Brothers.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they are.
I would say,
They are untouchable.
for as many great movies as they've made, I have a hard time putting any of them like in my list of favorites.
Really.
Like, even though like I'll agree, like Big Lebowski really is that good. Like
Oh, yeah.
Fargo is that good or better. Raising Arizona is the funniest comedy I've ever seen. Blood Simple is completely
Blood
underrated.
Simple is like, why aren't people seeing that? Why aren't we watching that on TV all the time?
Yeah,
Blood Simple, No Country for Old Men. I mean, that's
great movie, but
A Serious Man. Well, fuck, that movie got nominated for Best Picture, which is so strange that they got nominated. But that movie is so good and funny and
they are making movies
off the
like
beaten path.
better than most people out there.
They're doing their
so good.
Joel Cohen summed it up when they won their Oscar for No Country for Old Men. I think it was their directing Oscar. He said, we wanted to thank you all for letting us play in our corner of the sandbox. And it's
I remember that.
They really are playing in their own corner of the sandbox.
Yeah, and they do it so well and so accessibly. Like they're making art films.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bart Fink is an art movie.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me.
Barton Fink's another great one. Miller's Crossing.
Yeah,
I think their remake of The Lady Killers is good.
yeah, I enjoyed that. I like that.
Intolerable Cruelty, I think, is funny. They made this movie called the Man Who Wasn't There with Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh yeah.
You've seen that?
Mm-hmm.
That's another great one.
I think one of my favorites is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah. That reminds me of how they're another pair who like the way they use music in movies.
Oh yeah.
Or as No Country for Old Men, the way they don't use music in movies.
Yeah, right.
And to speak of music in movies, I mean, this Inside Llewyn Davies, this is another one of those kind of wandering movies. I would put it at the top of their catalog, up there with Fargo.
Really?
No Country, and Barton Fink.
That one kind of missed a lot of.
This was my favorite movie of 2013.
Really?
This was better than 12. Well, it was just I hate to. It's just as good as 12 Years a Slave. It's just as good as Frances Ha. They're three different movies, but they were the three best. Like, how do you really compare which of those three are better?
I do really want to see it though. It was shot by Roger Deakins, right? Yeah, because I'll see anything that he shoots. But Oscar Isaac he's like the hottest name in movies right now.
Yeah.
Like quietly though.
Another one is in the new Star Wars.
And he
Adam Driver's in Inside Llewyn Davies as well.
Really?
Star Wars.
Maybe this is like a.
John Goodman's in it.
Maybe he'll be in Star Wars.
Yeah, I hope. Can you imagine John Goodman in Star Wars? Carey Mulligan is in this film too. She's very good.
Yeah,
Very funny.
I love her in everything I've seen her in.
Yeah.
But Oscar Isaac, I first saw in that I know of. Like my first recognition of him was in Drive
Yeah.
when he played Standard Guzman, and it's such like a small role. Like
Yeah.
I read the book. I don't even think he's like mentioned on like 4 pages of the book. Like such a small role.
Yeah.
The script, same thing. The movie, same thing. Like very thankless role, like a necessary role for the plot, but he really impressed me by like the way he turned that guy into a character. Like he felt like alive in that role with such limited screen time, with so few things to do. Like he still stood out. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah. And you have to see Inside Llewyn Davies right away. I would say see that first.
All right.
That you haven't seen. And their ear for dialogue, it's unlike anything else.
All right. Number 9 is A Prophet.
I have not seen A Prophet.
I haven't either.
Prophet. It's
I
been
was
on the list.
Yeah, I was gonna see it a couple times, but I think it's relatively very long. Like pushing 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And every time I sat down to watch something, it was just like, I don't know if I want to like really dedicate all this time to a movie right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard great things about it.
Yeah.
Really great things. Number 9 on the list, it has to be doing something right. I can't say much more about it.
Me neither.
Number 8 would be Inherent Vice.
The greatest movie that's ever been made. I think I would put it as number 1 on my list. P.T. Anderson's magnificent adaptation of Thomas Pynchon's Inherent Vice. And I mean adaptation with a capital A. I mean, he took the unfilmable, but it's a very complex material and made it into a 2.5-hour movie. Almost word for word in a way, whereas There Will Be Blood was not. It was a very loose adaptation of its source material. Inherent Vice will be cult film
Yes.
going on down the line. It will be. They're already starting to people who kind of dismissed The Master are already coming back and saying The Master really is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Inherent Vice is the same way, and P.T. Anderson really is the real deal. He's the best filmmaker working right now. He's in a league with Kubrick, Hitchcock. He's our greatest living filmmaker. And Inherent Vice, it really is a fucking funny movie, and it's really simple when you try to break it down. And it's just this guy his ex-old lady shows up and says, "Can you do this for me?" And he goes and does it, and some funny stuff happens along the way, and point A does connect to point B. And it really is, it's a movie really about, kind of that effect that the ex-old can have on a guy, and the crazy stuff that love can do to you, and, the loss of these generations, and kind of that peace and love era.
I think I went into...
You had complications with it.
Yeah, I kind of expressed them the last time around. I don't really know a different way to say it other than just listen to what I said last time. Because, I still feel the same way about the movie. It hasn't changed. It's, to me, it didn't really grab my attention in the way that, like, I felt like I had to keep watching. Other people obviously feel different.
Well, I had a leg up in that I read the book before it came out. I knew what I was walking into. I knew that it wasn't, and I was afraid they were going to market it like a kind of comedic mystery, which it isn't.
Yeah, but that is how they marketed it.
Yeah,
like,
that
was the trailer.
It's not about that. It really is this guy in kind of like this hazy, crazy things happen to him because of the effect that this chick has on him.
Yeah.
The performances are so great, and Owen Wilson, he really stands out to me in this movie. He kind of whispers the whole movie, because he's like this ex-junkie, and Thomas Pynchon describes in the book as like the junkies kind of whisper and murmuring. But it really is a funny movie. And Joaquin Phoenix, what he's doing with his performance, these little nuances and idiosyncrasies. It's so worth watching. I mean, it's kind of hard to pin down, being that you're not so enthusiastic about it. But and I love to stress this. You know, I didn't think it was funny the first time I saw it, and now I've seen it a lot of times since, and I think it's hilarious.
All right. Well, that was number
1 on my list.
number 1, really.
Oh God, yeah.
Ahead of The Master.
That's number 1 too.
They're both number 1.
They're both number 1.
All right, 2 number 1s. Number 7 on this list is Certified Copy,
Which I haven't seen.
I don't even know if I've heard of it. To be number 7 on the list, with everything that we already talked about, this movie has to be like really doing something special. Whether it is or not, I mean, that remains to be seen. But I definitely will see it just because it is number 7.
Right.
Is it? Can I see myself enjoying it more than some of the other movies on the list? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Anything's possible. But I
haven't seen it. I can't say anything about it.
No. I'll definitely be on the lookout though. This movie I have seen though, number 6. Blue is the warmest color.
Ah. The actor's name is Adele Exarchopoulos.
Exarchopoulos.
She excretes more bodily fluids in that movie than any character I have ever seen. That movie uses close-ups the way like P.T. Anderson's using close-ups in a lot of his more recent work. And the food, I mean, they're just eating food in that movie the way people are eating food in Kubrick's movies.
Just ravenously.
Yeah.
Just devouring that spaghetti.
That's a fucking food movie. The way Babette's Feast is a food movie, and the way the cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover is a food movie. Like, that is a movie about eating, literally to the point. I mean, they're even when they're eating each other out, we're watching them eat each other out, close-ups. That.
True.
I'm sorry that all I thought about with that movie is the digestive system, and love, in a lot of ways, really is about the digestive system. I mean, there's this connection between when people kiss, it's their mouth and the genitals for sex. It's just like, what is our fascination with the digestive system? And that movie to me was like, yeah, this is about the digestive system.
This is another movie that it took me a while to see.
Fluids. Yeah, that movie is like...
It's 3 hours long. It's like a 3-hour love story between like 2 characters. Like, very simple story. Surprisingly simple.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot like of plot
to
go through. It's these 2 fall in love. This woman, like, you know, trying to find like herself. Like, it is a coming of age type of story in a way. Very well made though.
Mm-hmm.
To tell a simple story very well is deceptively hard. It's a difficult thing to do, but this movie pulled it off, I thought, very well. And it's I like it more after I saw it. Like, not so much while I was watching it, but like afterwards I thought about it, and it's all like positive feelings towards the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's perfect though. I wouldn't rank it number 6. I would definitely put it somewhere on my list.
2 moments I really love about it. I love the cinematography in that movie.
The cinematography is really weird because, like you said, it's a lot of close-ups.
Yeah.
And
it's intimate.
And it has to be, but it's not really like aesthetically pleasing to watch at times.
Not. It's almost like it kind of, the cinematography in a lot of ways captures the feeling of like the relationship.
Yeah.
It's pleasant at moments and it is very unpleasant.
Yeah.
At moments, and that's, I think, works to its benefit.
I have conflicting views on it because like part of me wants to see like wider, more beautiful shots, like more well composed shots rather than just a face. but other parts of me understand like why it was done this way and the effects that because it was done this way. Like,
There's one moment I love when they're first walking down the street and they do that double take at each other when they first see each other.
Mhm.
And there's the one moment when I think it's well into their relationship, and they're at like a parade or something, and Leah Seydoux whispers in the other woman's ears. Like I think that's what it is. She like whispers. They're like kind of walking together, and she whispers something in her ear, and like the other lady's her reaction is just like it's so pleasant and endearing, and it makes you feel good. Which it makes it so much more upsetting at the end when she's heartbroken over the end of their relationship.
one thing I really had a hard time with in this movie was the use of the color blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere.
It really
It's
is.
not subtle at all.
No, it's
It
not.
is so heavy-handed, and
Yeah.
at times that really took me out of the movie. Like, she has like a blue pillow and blue sheets on her bed and blue fingernails, and this other girl's blue hair, and there's blue background. She's wearing a blue dress, and like, dude,
We get it.
settle down. Like, less is more.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to say something with blue, like, when you do it too much, the effect is lost.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I don't think it handles the symbolism, like visual symbolism, in that way as well as maybe it could have. But I don't think it detracts from the story,
Yeah.
unless it takes you out of the movie at points. But when you know it's coming, it's a little more easy to swallow.
Yeah. I
Speaking
don't
of
think
digestion.
it hinders it.
Now we're getting into the top 5. Number 5 is a movie I did not see. It's called Holy Motors.
I haven't seen that either. It is streaming on Netflix now.
It is, but man, it seems like a weird fucking movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
It looks like one.
yeah,
Looks like a weirdo movie.
I mean, it says here it's hypnotic, visually stunning, baffling to an almost perverse degree. Very, very strange. Like I said before, it's an art movie, like in a way that, like almost as thoroughly as you can be. It seems. I haven't seen it. I don't know if that's true, but that's definitely the vibe I'm getting from just what I know about the movie and the way that they're describing it.
Yeah. I have to look at it. I'm anxious to see it. That's all I can really say about it because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, it has to do a lot to live up to number 5 on this list here. Number 4 is The Act of Killing. That's the documentary.
Have you watched that?
No. Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't in love with this movie the way a lot of people really seem to be entranced by it. It's really long, and it's one of those movies where you describe Ingmar Bergman as he gets his point across in the first 3 minutes, and then the rest is 3 hours of him saying the same thing over and over, which is what The Act of Killing was to me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like Wild Strawberries, that movie, like, I understood the movie. Like, when he looked at the clock with no hands, like, and the rest of the time, it's different ways of saying mostly the same message. And, yeah, I'm not saying the movie's bad, but you have to... You can't just say one thing multiple times in a movie, or I'm gonna get bored.
Wild Strawberries, I'm saving that for something special.
Yeah, it's, I mean, worth seeing, absolutely.
It's one of my favorite movies. It's gonna be a nice review of that coming soon.
Let's move on to number 3, Under the Skin.
Which we talked about last week, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. I remember saying it was weird as shit.
Yeah, that's a weirdo movie for sure.
Yeah, another, this list is skewed heavily towards very strange movies.
Yes, as I was reading through it, I could assumed at this point that Iron Man 2 was not going to be...
No, and rightfully so.
2 or 1. Yeah, really, of all of them. No, you're right.
All I have to say about Iron Man 2 is the hero and villain of this action movie spend most of the time sitting on opposite ends of the country. There's, I came up with better ideas playing with action figures when I was 10.
Yeah, you wrote a better movie with them.
Yeah, and there was a whole lot more fighting in it.
Yeah.
So, Under the Skin, I think we went into that last time.
I don't know if I'd put it even in my top 50. Under the
No,
Skin was not
Number
something I
3.
was-
That's
I'm glad other people like it.
yeah. It seems like the people who like it really like it.
Yeah.
It's
And I'm not sure if Scarlett Johansson is quite as good in it as. Like, I think her stand-up performance.
yeah. Under the Skin points in that movie are redundant. Going back to what you just said before, we don't need to see her driving around for 20 minutes. Like you could do that in like 7 or 8 or less. There's other shots in the movie that just go on and on. I understand why they're there for the tone of the movie, the atmosphere, the pace, but you could still do that and actually have things happen in the movie.
I agree.
I'm not saying the movie's bad. It's definitely worth seeing, and the ending is fantastic.
Yeah.
Easily the best part of the movie. Totally worth like. This is an example of, like with Kill List, I couldn't get into the movie at all, but this I was kind of into. Fascinated enough to keep watching.
I think I had like a lesser feeling of Under the Skin. I had a mild. The way I felt about Under the Skin is a mild feeling of the way you felt about Kill List.
Yeah. Alright, what about number 2, Dogtooth?
Dogtooth, that was another one that I didn't think was all that great or different. Have you seen it?
I saw parts of it, and it's strange how that happened. I was watching some video explaining shots on YouTube or something, or some other site similar to that, and they showed clips from some movie. That movie turned out to be Dogtooth, so I saw like a good 20 minutes of it without even knowing. It seems pretty strange. Not like Under the Skin strange, but
It wouldn't even, I watched it, I didn't care for it, and when I saw it on number 2 on this list, I'm like, really? Dogtooth?
yeah.
People I know who love Dogtooth, though.
I've heard people praise it very much so. It used to be on Netflix. I was going to see it, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know when I'll be able to see it. The number 1 movie of this decade. Speaking of Iran, it's called A Separation. I've heard nothing but praise for this movie. I haven't seen it. I actively tried looking for it before. Pretty hard to come by unless you go out of your way.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
It's about a woman who separates her husband as he tries to care for his elderly father. Is it a good movie? Yes. Is it a well-made movie? Yes. Is it number 1? No. Should it be in the top 50? I don't even know. It didn't leave a big mark on me.
Yeah.
But I would recommend everyone see it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I want to. But being that we just went through 50 movies, there are at least 5 that I could think of
Yeah.
that are really deserving of recognition that didn't get any. Should we go into that now?
Yeah, what did you think? What was left out that you would definitely have put in here?
There's no other way to start this conversation than mentioning Toy Story 3.
Yeah, where is Toy Story 3?
Where the fuck is Toy Story 3?
Yeah. I don't even know if they have a little disclaimer on the bottom of honorable mentions. I don't know if it's in there, but it's like, man, if you're making a list of the best movies, where the fuck is Toy Story 3?
What more does it have to do?
Yeah, what?
And this goes back
Why
to...
didn't it make the cut? Why wasn't it picked for the team?
Because it's plot driven, it's popular, it's linear, it's not an art movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great movie though, and I think the list is a little unfair to movies of Toy Story 3's type.
Yeah.
Where you can have a popular Hollywood blockbuster, big budget action movie, let's say, and still do something incredible with the cinematic medium. Toy Story 3 did that.
It did.
And to me, like Toy Story 3.
What movie can you think of that's the third in a series that's the best one? I mean, Toy Story 3 is better than fucking Toy Story.
Toy Story 3.
Well, maybe that's a stretch. I mean, they're just as good. But I mean, Toy Story 3 is wow.
It's as good as any movie.
Yeah.
And to me, the Toy Story 3 pulled off a miracle of filmmaking where there was a moment where I truly believed, that all of the main characters were going to die.
Yes.
In a children's movie.
Yes.
On screen.
I can't think of any feeling when they fucking all start grabbing each other's hands in that incinerator.
Yeah, that is like...
And they're about to die. And I was like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
This is the end.
I remember sitting in the theater thinking to myself, am I really watching that? Like,
Yeah.
Is this going to happen? Like, is this really going to happen? And when you think about it, like, no, it's not. It's a kid's movie.
When
They're
I
not
was
going to be
watching that,
burned alive
I'm like, oh
in
my
a
god.
G-rated movie.
They're all gonna die. And my thinking was just it was gonna be Woody will escape and the rest of them will die, if anything. But
Yeah.
it was like, oh my god, they're all gonna fucking die. And then they all give up. And they all grab each other's hands. And
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my god.
What's so great and powerful about that moment is not only do we understand their situation, but they understand
Yeah.
it. And they react to it. And they're like, this is the end.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, that is some powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And just even outside of that, the movie's unbelievably well made. I don't think animated movies get as much credit as they do for how well shot they are, and how well directed.
Yeah. I mean, there's just those fucking Pixar people are going above and beyond.
Yeah. I would put Toy Story 3 at my number one spot, if not 12 Years a Slave. Those are 1 and 2 for me, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
We'll have to make our 50 best of the decade list.
Yeah.
Coincide with this. Any other ones that you would have?
Yeah, one of my personal favorite movies of all time is Take Shelter.
That's a good one, yeah.
It's not like a grand movie in scope or theme or much of anything. It's straight ahead psychological thriller. Like if Hitchcock was around today, he might have made this movie. It's not an art movie. It's not surreal. It's not.
Well, it kind of is in a lot of ways.
In a understandable way.
Yeah.
Like in.
My favorite moment in that movie is still when he pulls the car over when his wife and daughter are asleep and he sees that lightning in the field.
Yeah.
And he just is like, is anybody else seeing this? It's like, that's really understanding the depth of, he knows there's something wrong with him, but at the same time he's believing what's wrong with him. And it's like, really upsetting.
Yeah. I don't want to go into too many details about the movie. I want people to see it and experience like what I experienced the first time I saw it. I was on the edge of my seat. And I mean like literally sitting on the edge of my seat, like my hands on my head, like, oh my god, like what's going on? And it's a relatively like a slow burn style movie, but there's always something happening. There's always a development. The status quo is always changing. It doesn't sit on a moment for too long. But like you said, there's those little moments in there, like those little character moments that really make the guy seem real and like make like you really feel for him.
Yeah.
It's such a great movie. Like the trailer for that movie is better than most movies to me.
Oh, absolutely. I was hooked. There's great music in that trailer.
Yeah, throughout the movie, the use of sound is incredible. The way it was shot. Jeff Nichols, the writer, director, probably my favorite writer, not working for Pixar right now, like just in movies in general. I can't get enough of his work.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you...
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Snowpiercer a little bit. I think I'd put that in there.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, that movie does better world building than anything else on this list.
Yeah. That movie, it's just the concept is so strong that if there is anything wrong with it, you can just kind of overlook it.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
I think the movie has a lot of longevity to it. Like, people are gonna only keep enjoying this movie. It's not gonna just fall away like Zero Dark 30 seemed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another movie that I really, really enjoyed that wasn't on the list. Probably, probably not seen by too many people. Probably did not enjoyed by too many people, but I know you like it. It's called Another Earth. I saw that movie and I was like, holy shit, somebody made a movie just for me. Like that's the way I felt.
I was like, fuck, somebody wrote the movie I was gonna make.
Yeah, that movie is like so good.
Yeah.
That's an example of how you do low budget filmmaking.
Absolutely, and great sci-fi concept.
Yeah.
Britt Marling, wow. I mean, take a number, to get to her.
She is so talented. Like,
Yeah.
co-wrote the movie, starred in the movie, got into filmmaking just because she didn't want to do her job anymore. Like,
Yeah.
working in DC or wherever it was.
And I think I had read where she just felt that like the kind of roles she wanted to play.
Nobody was
Yeah, nobody
ready.
was making them. She's like, I'll just do it myself then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Another Earth is a
So
character
rich.
piece, but it's also like there's a scope to it.
Yeah.
Where there are outside events, like global
It's-
events to this movie.
I would even go further. I would say for as human and as intimate as it is, it's so universal.
Yeah, definitely.
So scary too.
Yeah, great idea for a movie too, and there are multiple great ideas. Like the first one being, like this other Earth-like planet just shows up,
Yeah.
and
It's companion piece to Melancholia.
yeah, very much so. That's a great science fiction idea. But then there's also the great low-budget indie, low-key drama idea of like she was responsible for the death of this guy's family.
Yeah.
Now she feels remorse for it and
Yeah.
tries to make up for it.
Yeah.
There's these two things happening concurrently within the story. They eventually do tie in together. But wow, do I recommend that movie?
Absolutely.
I think also I would include Shame on this list.
Right.
I just love that movie.
Because
Yeah. And one more example for me of a glaring omission would be The Grey.
oh, the Liam Neeson film.
Yeah. Which to me is it's so much better than it has any right to be. It's marketed as Liam Neeson versus Wolves. It's just like a dumb action movie. You can watch it that way,
Yeah.
but you can also watch it
Another way.
yeah. Like, remember what I was saying with like the Babadook, how it's like all
Yeah.
about the metaphor. It's like The Grey is an example of doing that right. Like The Grey is all about death and accepting death, and that's really what it's about. It's not about the wolves. Like, yeah, they're there, but they're there as like a manifestation of like death is always coming after you. There's like you can't outrun it. You can't hide from it. There's nothing you can do. You can't fight it. But yeah, it still works as
This movie is getting a lot of people really like this in the aftermath. I'm
Yeah.
seeing here. This is really growing in appreciation.
yeah. I think the reason why is because it's actually about something. It's not just a stupid action movie.
Right.
Like I said, you can watch it that way and enjoy it as an action movie, but that's not what it's about at all. And if you really pay attention, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but very few characters are killed by wolves in this movie. And I think there's maybe like two. I think it was done that way because, like, to help illustrate the fact that, like, oh yeah, it's not really about them. Like, this guy dies this other way, this guy dies, and like, all these people die in the crash, and this guy freezes to death or whatever, this guy drowns, or this guy falls out of a tree.
Right.
Or whatever happens. I can't remember the details behind it, but there are a lot of moments in that movie where really struck me. Like I wasn't expecting it to be so thematic at its core, and it does so in many different ways. One of my favorites. I'm not sure if this was done intentionally or not, but it was done intentionally. Maybe not for this reason though. But I noticed I saw it first time on Blu-ray, and I noticed there was a real heavy like grain to the image. But as the movie went on, that like went away, got much lesser, and towards the end, the image is so clear, and it's almost like the characters like symbolic of what they're feeling, like their acceptance of their situation is becoming more clear to them as the movie physically becomes more clear to us. That's what I thought about it. Anyway, I don't know if Joe Carnahan thought that, but obviously it was done for a reason, otherwise it wouldn't have been done.
I haven't seen it. I still gotta watch it.
Really?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen The Grey yet.
Yeah, oh man, I love that movie. Probably put it in my top 10 of the decade.
Would you?
Yeah.
I gotta look at it.
Yeah, it's a very smart movie. Very well made too. Love the cast. The cast is fantastic.
It's good. He's kind of... Liam Neeson's got something weird going on now with all these movies he's being in.
Yeah, he had a resurgence.
Was there anything else that you'd add in?
Those are my my top picks. What about you?
Another Earth, Toy Story 3 were on my list. I talked about this last week, the movie Frank with Michael Fassbender. It's tremendous, great film with music. His performance, I don't know how he couldn't have been nominated for it. I mean, it's so off. He normally plays like an intense, kind of cool guy, but he's just such a weird, nerd, eccentric creep in Frank. And it's very funny, and it's just pleasantly odd, and it's bleakness.
Streaming on Netflix too, so easily watch. Yeah.
Ooh, gotta watch it then.
Yeah, it's on my list, along with like 480 other movies.
I know, yeah, 499 other ones. Another Ben Wheatley film made Kill List and Sightseers. He made a film called A Field in England.
Oh, I heard really good things about that. Yeah, there's
music in movies. I mean, this movie is so out there. Yeah, it's so neat.
There's a series of videos on the web called Renegade Cut. The guy who makes them, Leon Thomas, knows a hell of a lot about movies, and his videos are usually about like hidden things, like themes in movies and little ideas like that. Absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend you watch every Renegade Cut movie. Not movie, but like video. But he is a huge fan of A Field in England.
Oh, as he should be. What a fucking trippy movie.
That's the way I like heard about it originally.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't even know what it's about. It's this guy's like he's on the run during a war, and they wind up in this field in England, and this alchemist tells them there's buried treasure there, and he tricks them into trying to dig it up for him, and it's so out there, and it's an experience. I recommend everybody see it. And the other one that would be on my list is the Woody Allen movie Midnight in Paris, which is a delightful film with Owen Wilson. Have you seen it?
Nope.
They marketed this movie the right way. This was the way they marketed it, they didn't spoil what it was about, but at the same time they marketed it in a way that could get you in the theater to, like they don't tell you this plot, but they give you an idea what the story is, and this is this guy searching for love in Paris as he's dealing with his estranged, sort of like the tension between him and his fiancée, but there is a sort of magical element to it that they didn't reveal in the marketing, and I'm so glad they didn't, because boy oh boy does it work so well in the movie. See it and cool. Try to go into it not knowing what the trick is in it.
I really don't know much about it, so...
Well, it won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, as it very well should have.
Cool.
Woody Allen is just a treasure. A national treasure.
Yeah, those are, for me, all the major omissions that I thought were criminally left out.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other smaller movies that I could have argued.
Yeah, I mean, I could nitpick too.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But those, to me, are the ones worth mentioning.
Right. Well, that is the best of the decade so far, and I'm curious to see what's going to turn up in 5 years.
Yeah.
That we haven't seen, what's going to stay, what's going to go. I think this list will be drastically different for sure in 5 years.
Even so, it's been a great decade so far for movies. Really, really strong. Very diverse in the amount of movies that are just so well made and so entertaining.
Every year I get a few handful of movies that are just remind me of like, wow, I'm so glad people are making these.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Anything else you think about? You want to mention? Talk about?
No,
in our film show.
I think I'm ready for the weekly recommendation.
And what do you have?
I'm gonna cheat here. I said I had no more movies to list for the best of the decade. I lied. My recommendation is one of them, but I didn't mention it before because I wanted to mention it now as my recommendation. Absolutely deserves to be known. It's similar to my last week's recommendation. It is a 80-minute foreign language film that is currently streaming on Netflix, so you could easily see it. It's called The Painting. Foreign language animated movie.
Ooh.
From France. I don't even know how I came across this movie, but holy crap, this blew me away. This was unlike anything I expected. I didn't even know what to expect, but the plot of the movie, like the story is, these characters are in a painting. The painting was abandoned by its creator. So several characters in the painting leave the painting to go search for the creator so he could come and finish his work.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, fantastic idea on the surface, but this is an example of like really exploiting the concept.
Right.
Because it's not just about that. The way that the characters are presented in the story, like within the painting, some characters are completed, like they've been fully painted. They're almost treated like royalty. There's other characters that were only halfway done, and they're kind of almost like a representation of like the middle class. And then there are just characters that are just sketches, and they're just shunned by society as a whole. And there's this whole like class system going on within this painting, and the movie has a lot to say about some really important topics like the class, the social
Hierarchy.
themes, like hierarchy, racism, all searching for the creator god. Like it really goes into these topics, but not.
This sounds like a movie. Why isn't this more well known?
Right. That's why I'm recommending it. It's special at the end here. So well done. The animation style is fantastic. Really creative movie. I can't say enough good things about it. Just see it.
I definitely will check that out on Netflix. My recommendation for the week, we talked about it in the top 50. I would recommend everybody see the movie, but my real recommendation is the soundtrack to the film Only Lovers Left Alive. I don't even know if there is a soundtrack, but the use of music in that movie is haunting, and like I said, Jim Jarmusch uses music the way Kubrick did. I don't know if there is a separate soundtrack, but otherwise, then watch the movie and enjoy the soundtrack.
Cool.
It's a fucked up movie. I love it. That's my recommendation for the week. And I got my Drive book here that I'm going to look at. And maybe I'll revisit Drive. Consider it.
Yeah, I've revisited Drive many times. I do it probably once a year at least. And wow, I just love it more and more every time.
Good deal. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm done.
Alright. The end.